This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
Welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiero Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Hello, Dick from Cartagena,
Yeah, we're in
Colombia.
Cartagena, Colombia, where I just gave a speech. And the content of the speech might be interesting to you. I said that modern political campaigns, largely based on social media, have become crazily negative, where any candidate who runs is skewered and attacked for all kinds of stuff, and it never works. I pointed out that Donald Trump has been indicted 4 times, convicted once, impeached twice, and shot once, and none of it has stopped him from becoming president. In fact, he very rarely answered his critics. He just kept on making new proposals and new ideas that were relevant to people. And that there's a lesson there for all political campaigners. The voters are not interested in your opinion of your opponent. They're interested in what you are going to do for them in their particular personal situation. And if there's anybody who ever illustrated that, it's Donald Trump. Harris spent a whole campaign attacking Trump, literally every day, every speech, every hour. And Trump came back and said, what's important here is to cut taxes, cut government regulation, move the government back out of people's lives, restore merit-based stuff, get rid of racial-based quotas and all of that.
DEI and all that.
Yeah, and it worked fabulously. And the Democratic attacks on him personally were ineffective. And for God's sakes, if you can attack anybody, you can attack someone that's been indicted 4 times, convicted once, impeached twice, and shot. Doesn't get any more vulnerable.
You don't get more ammunition than that.
That's right. So it's very important. I told the people in the audience, who are a group of political consultants throughout Latin America, that don't base your campaign on attacks on your opponent. Base it on what you're going to do for people. And the context of it is that Colombia, where I gave the speech, has basically gone leftist after decades of being pro-American.
You know, it's a beautiful thing. Dick gave this speech, and our great friend Luis Rosales was the interpreter. So if Luis didn't like what Dick said, he would just make up his... No.
Anyway, back in the U.S., USSA, there's been a very significant partisan swing in favor of Republicans over the last 2 years, according to data from Pew Research. And Pew Research is really the gold standard. It's nonpartisan, it's non-political, never been political, always been accurate, and very scientific, with a great deal of data probing and a great deal of material. So Pew Research took a look at partisan trends by age group and sex, and found significant gains for Republicans among both men and women. Women mainly aged 18 to 29, and men mainly aged 30 to 49. And they were just very impressive gains that took place within the last 2 years. In 2023, 62% of young men, ages 18 to 19, were either Democrat or leaned Democrat, while 36 were Republican. But in 25, 2 years later, the results were starkly different. A majority of men in this age group, 52%, now either identify as Republican or lean Republican, and only 34% Democrat. So these are the youngest voters coming on tap. And to have that kind of enormous change within a year was absolutely incredible.
I mean, they have to just see the dichotomy between Trump and Biden. That how can it happen that fast in 1 year
Well,
or
Trump
less
and
than?
Harris and Trump and
Right.
Schumer and Trump and Mondami.
Exactly.
And Trump and the entire Democratic Party.
Right. Because that's amazing.
Well, this swing is not as sizable as in men's. Women in the same age bracket are beginning to swing in toward Republicans as well, meaning the weakening of the abortion issue. In 2023, 65% of young women said they were Democrat. Today, it's only 58%. And the percent that said they lean Republican rose from 30% to 37%. So that you're seeing now a dramatic and important shift in the voter population, not just in terms of Trump, and not just in terms of policies, but in terms of whether they identify as a Democrat or Republican. Amazing to
You know,
see
it
that change.
seems to me it's more of a mindset than, you know, obviously you go to the grocery store and you see the economy and you see things that Trump is doing now and what he did 4 years ago and whatever it was, right? But it's more of a mindset of the world's going to be a better place just with everything, even speaking with people. I think that's the only way this could happen so quickly.
Yeah, amazing. And it's, we have to credit the Democratic Party for a lot of it.
Without a doubt.
We could never have done it without them.
Yeah, we couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you. That is pretty funny.
And it really presages the possibility that the Democrats stop to being a competitive force in our politics, that they go the way, you know, parties can disappear. The Liberal Party, for example, in England was always the runner-up or the governing party, with the Tories, the Conservatives being number one. And then around 1920, they faded, and the Labour Party took over as the minority, as the
How
opposition
long were they
party.
in that other party? How long were they?
Well, they were in and out of power for 300 years.
Oh.
And since Oliver Cromwell, really. And then it changed suddenly and dramatically. And that change was largely because of the working class growing and voting Labour, oddly
Well,
enough.
you know, the name of the party will change. I mean, won't change. Just all these crazy leftists have to go eventually. So like you said, it's going to take a couple of cycles at least.
Well, the important point is to see polling as like the layers of a layer cake. It starts out as a sense that the economy is doing better or worse under the new party, and then it switches to I like the leaders of the new party better than the old
Like
one.
the AOCs
And then it switches finally to I am a member or identify with the new party, not with the old party. But normally expect this process of seeping down through the layers to take a long time. And the amazing thing here is it's happened between 22 and 23, literally in 1 year. So among women, a majority identified as a Democrat 2 years ago, and now 51% of women identify as Republican.
I think AOC was our best gift. As I always say, you know, what's his name? Bernie Sanders. He is socialist and he wants to, but he never mentioned it. AOC, when she was elected to Congress, she actually said the word socialism, and this is great. We have to get, and it came to the top. We were able to have a conversation using that word. I think that was that was our best gift.
Yeah, it was really. Well, it wasn't our best gift, but our
What do you
best
mean?
gift, our best gift really were the social policies about immigration and about gender change and
Then COVID, where you can't go
Yeah.
to school and you can't
all of
get,
that. But it really is 5 years of back-to-back Democratic failures,
Right.
combined with the successes of Trump.
And not
that I
only are
think
there
causing-
failures, but so much of that stuff backfire in their face. The immigration, everyone
Yeah.
coming in, and now they're turning Republican.
Speaking of immigration,
Yeah, so talking about deporting 3,000 per day.
I'm
ICE
talking about it, doing it.
Yeah, right. ICE is now deporting nearly 1,300 people a day, according to the latest agency data that underscores the Trump administration's ramp up. If sustained over 12 months, it'll break President Obama's modern-day deportation record set in 2012. But they never bitched about that,
Yeah,
the
right.
Democrats, Obama's 2012 thing. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement says its bookings or arrests have dropped below 900 a day, indicating the agency is having trouble making headway on President Trump's goal of booting out the millions who arrived during the Biden
Yeah,
authority.
but the reason
it's
they're having
happening.
trouble is people are moving out on their own, and it can't catch them before they do.
Right.
The publicity about deportation has gotten so intense and so omnipresent, so ubiquitous, that people are moving out on their own. They're getting the point, and they're leaving before they get thrown out.
And if they have some kind of thing on record, they're getting out quicker also. If they have
Well, yeah,
a
they
warrant or something.
Well, no, they get tremendous advantages. First of all, they're getting $1,000 each for moving
Let me
out.
ask you about that. I got a question. I don't know if you're going to know this particular. They're going to get $1,000, but somebody with a warrant, he's not going to go and ask to come
No.
in for the grand,
No, he's not.
right?
He's
Right.
not.
So,
So,
I was thinking this is the government
but for
turning
the-
their face on this because this get out.
But for the average person, it's $1,000 apiece, and most importantly, there's no black mark on your record. So when you try to come in
It doesn't show you
legally,
as an
it
illegal.
doesn't stop
Oh.
you.
Yeah, I'm thinking of flying down to Mexico, break it in, and then say, "Listen, I'll leave for that," and then get $1,000. I do that once a month. I can make some extra cash.
Yeah, you could. But we're not giving career advice on this show.
Oh, okay. Oops. All right. So you
Okay.
doing 2A or am I
Well,
doing
we
this
have a
one?
break now, or are we?
We should. Yeah, let's go to break.
Yeah.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. The economy had tremendous gains in the last quarter. It went from a shrinkage of 0.5 point to growth of 3 points, which is very significant because most economists were predicting rates of 1.5 to 2.8%, and the new rate of 3% is a pleasant surprise. The Bureau of Economic Analysis, which is nonpartisan, said the increase in real GDP in the second quarter primarily reflects a decrease in imports, which are a subtraction in the calculation of GDP, and an increase in consumer spending. These movements were partially offset by decreases in investment and exports. The decrease in imports is most likely the result of new tariffs. If so, it's an indication that the tariffs are doing their intended job. According to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, consumer spending, also referred to as personal consumption expenditures, went up 0.3%, creating a positive influence on GDP. Personal income and disposable personal income also increased by 0.3%. Both are very, very good news for consumers. But as always, the media focuses on negatives. And the negative they focused on was to not pay attention to the quarterly reports, which is 3 months, instead focus on the 1 month report in the month of July. But even with that, they completely missed the point. Employers added only 73,000 jobs in the month of July, which is lower than should be. Normally it's in the range of the low 100,000s. But the key thing is the same survey found that the growth in jobs was entirely among Americans, people born here. The number of native-born jobs has gained over 2 million since Trump took office. All this while real wages and household income is rising too. The Trump economy is really delivering for American workers. So the adjustment of only 73,000 was brought down because of the number of foreigners who did not get jobs.
Right.
And the bias in favor of hiring Americans has increased enormously. Overall, the economy rebounded in the last quarter, the last 3 months, growing at an annual rate of 3%, slowing the previous slowing the previous 3 months. Many economists said Trump's tariff would cause inflation and even a recession, but now those predictions have been proven wrong. Inflation is falling under Trump while the economy is growing. But not everyone inside the country is benefiting evenly from the economy. Trump's mass deportation efforts can be seen in the Department of Labor data. And according to the latest jobs report, the number of foreign-born workers in the American workforce fell by 400,000 in July, bringing the total number of foreign workers who have left the workforce to over 1 million.
But when you say foreign, you're talking about illegal people.
No, I'm not.
Oh, just
I'm talking about
foreign.
foreign-born.
Oh, okay.
The government doesn't distinguish between legal and illegal.
So why would people that are legal in this country all of a sudden not do that? I don't understand.
Well, it's mainly illegal people.
That's right.
But they're overwhelmingly the number of legal people. The point is that people in the United States who are illegally here are voluntarily deporting, moving out, and they're losing their jobs in the process. And those Americans who have always been American citizens are dramatically increasing in their economy. 2 million native-born jobs gained since Trump took office. 2 million.
Wow.
Amazing.
That's what, 7 months? 6, 7 months?
6, yeah.
Wow.
And July. And for years, for almost for decades, the number of foreign-born workers has way outstripped the number of American-born workers in job growth. In fact, there were some stories which we covered on the show.
You think that's employees that given them less money? The reason for that, employees will take.
No, I think it's that the foreign-born lumps in legal and illegal. And you're seeing a huge drop in illegal, which shows up as foreign-born,
Sure.
but in fact it's
Right,
illegal.
probably 90%.
Yeah, there's an entire change going on in the American economy, from illegal immigrants to Americans and legal immigrants.
Right.
And that change is reflected in the economic data. And then on top of that, inflation is falling. So
This is America first.
yeah. According to latest jobs reports, the number of foreign-born workers in the workforce fell by 400,000 in July, bringing the total number of foreign workers who have left the workforce to over 1 million, which is unbelievable. So it shows that the census data had shown that the number of illegal immigrants in the country has also fallen by 1 million since Trump took office. It's impossible to tell whether they were deported by Homeland Security or self-deported.
Doesn't matter.
But the point is that there has been tremendous economic growth, and enormous economic growth for American-born people, and not reflected in the data, but true for legal immigrants who live in the United States.
Once again, mindset. It just makes you feel better.
Well, these are unbelievable numbers.
Just like Trump with these federal regulations, he would, for every regulation he puts down, you got to knock out 10. So let's just talk about this.
Yeah, well, in the past, the
Biden and Obama would just regulate everything,
And the
Can't walk across the
conservatives
street.
insisted, they passed legislation saying that you can't create a new federal regulation until
Unless
you
you
repeal
cut.
3 others.
No, 10.
No, 3 others. And now the statistics are they're not 3 others, there are 10 others.
Right.
So it's
So-
3 times as much as they thought.
Right, so the administration's it's gone on a regulation cutting binge, eliminating Biden and Obama's era rules while slashing the bureaucracy built to impose costly restrictions. Early indications from a key regulation watcher confirm that Trump is not just making good on the campaign promise to cut 10 regulations for every new one. his team proposed, but has also caused issues.
Issuing new
New
regulations.
regulations, and there's a no N at the end of regulations, says regulate you.
The change from Biden's approach is so radical that Washington's regulation watchdog, Clyde Wayne Cruz of the Competitive Enterprise Institute, dubbed the new campaign the Unrule.
He said what we're witnessing is the rise of the unrule, a revolt against the machinery of the administrative state. In a pending blog post shared with Washington Secrets, he said that many of the rule the Washington Trump administration is posing are actually targeting those on the books for elimination. Many of the so-called rules that have appeared this year aren't new mandates at all. They're reversals, delays, withdrawals, and government-wide recognition that certain, perhaps most regulations are not merely unjustified, but actively harmful.
Yeah. So in addition to the jobs data, where employers are hiring Americans, not illegals, and getting rid of illegals, you see that in the regulation of the economy, Trump is very successful in cutting the number of regulations and the number of government requirements that are imposed on American business.
Well, the whole thing with the regulations, it seems, on the left, they just pick and they put anything out there. I remember working in some houses where, I do art and murals in houses, right, and fancy stuff. I'm usually at the house, a new build or renovation, at the end, when the plasterboards are up and they're painted, and there's always some guy from the town or the community that comes in and he has to look so he can sign off on the CO. And there's always somebody that has to justify their paycheck and says, well, the plug is 3 inches to the right, it's got to be 3 inches over, when it doesn't make a bit of difference in the world. These are regulations and rules that people put together just to keep their jobs sometimes. And this is what Trump, buildings all his life, knows. So he sees it and says, we're going to cut 10, and he's going to find the bad ones as he regulates the good stuff, like seatbelts, or you have to, stay within the law when you drive. That's good regulation. But stupid little stuff like,
Taillight.
Yeah, a taillight, or the brick is 4 feet from the edge of your land. It's got to be 5 feet.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah, well, we all know what excessive regulation means.
Yeah, left.
And with the economy, it's been incredible.
And just like people at mom and pop store, they want to open up a business. What it takes sometimes to open up a business in New York is impossible sometimes. What they put you through. Where are we going now, Dick? We're on 4, 5?
5. There's very interesting study, very interesting data. They asked, do you approve of the DEI regulations, diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Oh, before you go any further, Dick, I just want to give the call-in number. It's 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Call in, let's talk. Coffee talk.
They asked Americans, what do you think of the DEI regulations? Diversity, equity, inclusion. Do you think they hurt black people more than whites, or they hurt whites more than blacks? And the inevitable, the thing you're absolutely positive about, is that in the past they clearly were seen as hurting whites more than blacks. But now there's been a fundamental change, and the data shows that they are affecting blacks more than they are affecting whites. 40% of the blacks said DEI hurts them more than whites.
DEI.
Not DEA.
Didn't earn it.
Yeah.
As Charlie Kirk says.
That's right.
Didn't earn it.
So it's a dramatic change, and a total change from the conventional wisdom, which is that DEI was an anti-racist thing that helps black people. In fact, it's an anti-racist thing that hurts black people and hurts white people at the same time. So the narrative that diversity, equity, and inclusion is going to be in favor of black people and against whites turns out to be totally untrue.
Well, it should be merit-based. You should get a job that you could, a fireman's got to pick up a guy, a real heavy guy in a building and run down 10 flights of stairs. If someone can't pick up a 200 and 250-pound guy and get down the stairs, they're going to get the job just because they're a woman or because they're black? No. You get the job based on what you could do, on your merit.
Now, there's a new development in the Russiagate scandal. As you know, the Hillary campaign introduced the idea that Trump was colluding with the Kremlin and that the Kremlin was helping Trump win the election. And they made this accusation. And then it turned out that the intelligence on which that was based was completely phony and fraudulent and had nothing to do with reality.
So it's not really called intelligence, it's anti-intelligence.
Yeah. Pat Moynihan once said, never confuse intelligence with intelligence.
Hey, you said something good once in a while.
But now it turns out what we all knew is true, and the FBI documents are now substantiating it, that Hillary's campaign had approved an operation to manufacture a fake Russia scandal to harm Donald Trump, and worked on getting the FBI to fully participate in this sham. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, who spent years fighting to declassify the intelligence gathered from a foreign enemy and delivered to Obama, is set to release this bombshell information in the form of a declassified report as an appendix to Russia Special Prosecutor John Durham's final report. A source directly familiar with the new evidence, but who declined to be named, said it shows that the FBI officials knew of a Clinton campaign plan to create a fake narrative that Donald Trump was conspiring with Russia to hijack the election and to distract from the classified email scandal that was hurting her campaign during the 2016 election.
I always think about this. They never, ever, so they don't have evidence that Hillary herself did anything, because they never say, they always say her campaign. They never say Hillary paid for this, Hillary's campaign paid. So until within a couple of weeks, we're going to know whether they have something on her for that she actually had her finger, a pen on the paycheck.
Right.
They never say Hillary, they say her campaign.
Yeah.
So,
but this is this is very important, because Hillary in 2016 closed the campaign and the debates by talking mainly about how Russia was working with Trump and backing Trump.
That's true, yes. So she did say that.
That was the big thing she talked about. And the Democrats talked about it all the time. And this came right after...
Adam Schiff, he would constantly talk about it.
And this came right after the FBI, the email scandal, where it turned out that Hillary was not using a government server, but using a private server to hide her emails. So that was hurting Clinton a lot as the 2016 election happened. In fact, there was speculation that it was the reason that Trump was winning. And this spawned the whole Russiagate scandal, because the Democrats said, we've got to manufacture evidence that Russia is helping Hillary.
Insurance deal.
Right, they called it an insurance deal. And what that meant is that as the campaign progressed, they were asserting that this was all the Kremlin. Hillary's campaign said that the FBI would legitimize Clinton's false narrative by investigating the allegations included in a Clinton campaign-funded dossier written by British spy Christopher Steele. So we first learned that this was all phony, that it didn't happen. Then we've learned that the government was behind it, that the Obama administration was pushing this line. And now we find that it was the Hillary campaign that was pushing Obama, that was pushing the intelligence community to convince Americans that something that happened, that something that didn't happen, happened.
Well, if they don't get her, Hillary, specifically on this, they're going to get her on the emails and remember, wipe the email server clean. Would I use a rag to wipe it clean?
Cloth,
they're going to get her on that. They might not get her on, only because you would have people coming out and say Hillary definitely paid for that dossier, but they never did. And when we get back, we're going to talk about Strzok and his girlfriend getting $2 million. This is ridiculous.
This program is going to degenerate into sex.
Forget the sex. They're giving them money. What's getting money? All right, when we come back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Now, you're not going to like this story, Dick, at all. FBI lovers get $2 million. This is ridiculous. $2 million in taxpayer money used to pay off 2 disgraced FBI participants in the Trump-Russian collusion narrative was approved by a former Department of Justice official who has gone on to help lead the current legal resistance against President Trump. That's the conclusion of a report in the Federalist based on the News Records Review. Security in America under a Freedom Information request. The $2 million settlement in 2024 to the FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok and his mistress, Lisa Page, followed their lawsuits against the DOJ over release of text messages related to their role in pushing what the Federalists called the Clinton campaign's Russian collusion hoax. Critics said the payments were a sweetheart deal. That's pretty funny. A sweetheart.
Sweetheart deal to sweethearts.
Yeah. Since the pair never would have prevailed if they weren't sweethearts. No, would have prevailed if the case had gone to trial. According to the Federalists, Brian Netter, a former DOJ guy and Deputy Attorney General under President Joe Biden, DOJ from 2021 until early 25 approved the settlement agreements. It's ridiculous. From the DOJ with the Federalists reporting. Netter currently serves, as the legal director at Democracy Forward, a Democrat Party affiliated group launched in 2017 to fight President Trump with lawfare. The group brags that it took Trump to court more than 100 times in his first term in office. Oh, so he couldn't get anything done. That's really nice. Don't worry about the country. You want to stick the guy in the back. It has continued its use of the courts to win political battles into his second term in office. Liberal legal group positions itself as a top Trump administration foe, touted the New York Times. As Breitbart News reported in May of 24, the FBI lovebirds Strzok and Page claimed their right to privacy was violated with the release of their disparaging text messaging about President Trump and his supporters during the Russian collusion investigation. Trump and others blasted the pair for the text, which included Strzok citing the smell of Trump supporters in a Virginia Walmart store and talks as an insurance policy like we talked about before. In the settlement, Strzok received $1.2 million. Page received $800,000.
Hey, that's a discrimination. Should be equal pay for equal work.
Oh, so he did more and she didn't do as much,
right?
Because she got $800,000.
He got 1.2 million.
This is
equal pay for equal work.
This is as bad as the woman that got burned from the McDonald's coffee and got like millions of dollars just getting money for nothing. Democracy Forward, Netter's new legal home is chaired by Mark Ellis, the attorney known for his work damaging the integrity of the 2016 land 2020 election. The Federalists, they reported that. It noted Ellis' role in weaponizing the unverified and widely debunked Steele dossier that linked Trump with Russia. Ellis, as the Clinton campaign general counsel, signed the checks for her. Oh, so there's a guy signing the checks. This guy Ellis, right? Campaign Russia's collusion hoax. The Federalists said, to hide the Russian collusion hoax origins, the funding was fraudulently run through Ellis's law firm as legal services. That sounds a little illegal. James Fitzpatrick director of the Center to Advance Security in America, told the online magazine, the American people are rightly concerned about the Biden administration's targeting of conservatives while their political allies were given special treatment. These settlements are a prime example of the outrageous abuse of power to endure. This is a little ridiculous.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is basically Strzok and Page decided that Trump was going to win the election, or worried about that. And they were emailing each other, and they both worked for the FBI.
They struck the Page.
In pretty high positions. And Page said to Strzok, don't worry, I have an insurance policy.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I can make sure that Trump doesn't win. And the way they were going to do that was to work with Christopher Steele, the British spy, to fabricate the allegation that Kremlin was controlling Trump's campaign. And the more that happened, the more they were convinced that that would work.
Now, we don't know if they said to Steele, fabricate this thing, or Steele put that together and says, here's what I got, but we're going to find out
Yeah,
about
we're getting
that.
very close to
Yeah,
knowing
we're
that.
going to find out.
Yeah.
And at least, I bet Pondy already knows, but,
And the
just
nice thing
put
is
the case
that
together.
after getting those instructions, the American people weren't compensated for that by having two top officials at the FBI conspiring to try to defraud the people.
The American people should get compensated,
Yeah,
not
they were
Strzok.
compensated
Yeah.
with money.
Oh, I like the little twist on
Yeah,
that.
so the lovers have a recourse now.
You want to go to the next one with Linda McMahon? She celebrates a win against the Ivy League school. This is great. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon celebrated the settlement between a third university and the Trump administration. Brown University announced Thursday it will pay the state of Rhode Island $50 million in what McMahon characterized as a fine, rather than lose $110 million for anti-Israel protests on its campus last year. The university also agreed to comply with President Donald Trump's executive order keeping transgender athletes out of women's sports. We had 3 great triumphs, McMahon said. 3. That's beautiful.
So
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. And the entire Trump administration effort to stop the Ivy League schools from working in cahoots with the Palestinians and trying to fabricate the idea of Americans opposing Israel and being outraged. And now those schools are losing money, losing federal grants, and ultimately, in the case of Harvard, probably losing their accreditation in the first place for participating in that. And I think that's going to be very important.
Once again, the mindset of how people are starting to think and are going to think for quite a while. That's going to be the theme of the show, the mindset. Dick's mindset. I always say, changing the world one Dick Morris at a time.
Yeah, well, we're really watching the major change now in party affiliation and everything else because of the accumulated evidence of Democratic misdeeds. And it doesn't end with the Trump campaign. We now know that Biden was totally incompetent, totally unable to perform the duties of president, and that there was a massive cover-up by the Democrats, by the Biden administration, to hide how incompetent he was and how sick he was, and to reelect him as president.
And there should be a consequence to people that hid that from the American people.
Yeah, I mean,
from the public.
To hide the evidence that the president of the United States had no mental ability to be president.
I mean, we all saw he was a moron, but we didn't know how bad he was a moron.
Well, Biden was never very bright, but I guess one of the great defenses for someone who's not very bright is that when they turn senile, nobody notices.
It's not like he lights up a room when he walks in. Probably walks in the wrong room anyway.
So Americans are about to get another jolt from the declassified Russiagate evidence. This time, the Obama administration shows that it had intelligence as far back as the summer of 2016, right before the election of 2016, that Hillary Clinton had approved an operation to manufacture a fake Russia scandal to harm Donald Trump, and the FBI fully participated in the plan. Senate Judiciary Chuck Grassley said that this bombshell information, coming from a source directly, says the new evidence shows that the FBI officials knew of a Clinton campaign plan to create a fake narrative that Trump was conspiring with Russia to hijack the election. This is the FBI talking. And to distract from the classified email scandal that was hurting the campaign during the 2016 election.
In fact, there's evidence that needs to be fully vetted that foreign enemies believe that the FBI would fully participate in the plan, the source said.
The FBI director said that even foreign governments knew what the Clinton campaign was up to. The source's description closely matches comments that CIA Director John Ratcliffe made over the weekend about the document he helped declassify that showed the foreign enemies intercepted intelligence on the Clinton campaign. Her campaign asserted in their own documents that the FBI would legitimize Clinton's false Russia narrative by investigating the allegations included in the dossier written by Christopher Steele. What the intelligence shows, the FBI says, is that part of this was a Hillary Clinton plan. Part of it was an FBI plan to be an accelerant to the fake Steele dossier, to those fake Russia collusion claims, by pouring oil on the fire, by emphasizing and amplifying the lie that bearing the truth was what Hillary Clinton was up to. It's been known for years that then CIA Director John Brennan briefed Obama in the summer of '16 about the Steele dossier, and that is now the basis for likely perjury indictments against Comey.
So when we get back,
we're going to talk more about this Russia scandal and how it's a scandal that keeps on giving.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. So let me pick up the story we were doing before the break. The CIA reports that even foreign governments knew what Clinton was up to. And John Ratcliffe, the director of the CIA under Trump, said that the document he helped declassify showed that the foreign enemies intercepted intelligence on the Clinton campaign. Her campaign asserted that the FBI would legitimize Clinton's false narrative by investigating the allegations contained in the Clinton campaign dossier written by expert spy Christopher Steele. So what went on here is that Hillary's campaign completely made up this story about Trump being in cahoots with the Russians, totally made it up to cover up her email scandal and stop it from getting publicity. And then Hillary got the government to support that narrative and to say that there was indeed a deal between the Kremlin and Trump. And then Hillary used that 3 times, actually, in her debate with Trump to say that that was the key reason to vote for her. But what the intelligence shows is that part of this was a Hillary Clinton campaign all along, and part of it was an FBI plan to be an accelerant to the fake Steele dossier, to those fake Russia collusion claims, by pouring oil on the fire, by amplifying the lie, and bearing the truth of what Hillary Clinton was up to. It's been known for years that then CIA Director John Brennan briefed Barack Obama in the summer of '16 about an CIA-obtained intelligence indicating a foreign enemy had intercepted Clinton's Russia hoax plan. Brennan's own notes of the conversation with Obama and other top officials described the foreign enemy intelligence as having captured an alleged approval by Hillary Clinton on July 26th in 2016 of a proposal from one of her campaign advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by Russian security services. A subsequent CIA referral to the since fired and now prosecuted FBI Director James Comey, declassified in 2020, shows that the CIA believed Clinton's false narrative would suggest Trump and Russian hackers were handling U.S. election, and that Clinton's end goal was distracting the public from her use of a private email server. The soon-to-be classified appendix from Durham is anticipated to reveal that the FBI was expected to embrace the Clinton campaign dirty trick. The appendix is also expected to show internal Clinton campaign communications indicating that the plan to carry out the hoax was described in some intercepts. According to Durham's public report, the purported scheme by Clinton was allegedly approved on July 26, 2016, smack dab in the middle of the 2016 Democratic Convention nominating Clinton for president. Now remember, at that convention, at the time of the convention, it came out that Hillary was using a private email server and that the government did not have access to the real documents from her campaign. And a source in the FBI and in the Clinton campaign dropped this information in the middle of the Democratic Convention. And Hillary had to scurry like crazy to cover up the idea that she was using an email server that was vulnerable, and basically all this information was going to come out.
You know, she didn't have to worry about this because she thought for sure she was going to be elected.
Yeah.
Now remember she said to Donna Brazile, "You got to fix this son of a gun or else we're all going to hang from nooses." She was right.
She was right.
He won, and now they're all going to hang.
And this came out during the convention. So the whole narrative of the Russia collusion was intended to distract attention from the email scandal. Let's go to who? Sandra.
Sandra.
In New Jersey.
Our
Hi,
favorite
Sandra.
girl. Hi, Sandra.
Hello, Dick and Doug. Doug and Dick, I want to say that earlier I heard you say, Dick, that when you pick a running mate, it has to be someone, what will they do for you? So based on that, I was looking at the running mates that Jack Ciattarelli picked and Cheryl picked. So just the other day, an illegal immigrant wrecked a car. He went like the wrong way and killed a woman and her child. Yeah, and this is an illegal immigrant who was arrested 2 times prior and also had domestic abuse. So Jack Ciattarelli picked a sheriff who has been elected 3 times over. He also is on the FBI criminal thing. He's done many wonderful things, and Cheryl picked someone who stands for DEI. He was a chair at Fairleigh Dickinson for diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is what he stands for. I'm sure he has a lot of good things to bring to the table, but we spent 4 years, Dick, talking about how dangerous DEI is.
Right.
So Jack brings someone who will bring safety to our state. She brings someone who I don't know what he's going to bring to the state. So just based on that, what you said earlier, I mean, look at Kamala Harris, who she picked, Tim Walz.
Yeah,
choice.
That's a very good point, Sandra. And the issues in the New Jersey governor's race are really the same as the issues in the Trump campaign of 2024. And the issue is what's the governor going to do for us? And it's pretty clear that the Democrat is just going to continue these crazy policies favoring illegal immigrants, stopping job growth, and really sending the whole country on a mission to keep these illegal people in the United States.
Thank you, Sandra. We got a hard break, Dick. We have
Okay,
to
when
go.
we come
Thank
back,
you,
we'll
Sandra.
take some more of your calls.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
There's a new way of being anti-Semitic in the world today. It used to be that they would talk about how bad Israel was for taking away land from the Palestinians, even though in 1948, when Israel was established, it offered to allow Palestinians to stay in Israel. And 1 million of them did, and they are citizens of Israel. They can vote in Israel and have full rights. But the narrative continues. Now the narrative is that after Hamas invaded Israel and killed 1,200 people at a fair, including women and children, and Israel retaliated against the Palestinians. The Palestinians hid their crimes and put children at risk and said that they are the ones who were responsible.
Yeah.
And they hid their own involvement from it.
They hid behind people and children as shields.
And now,
that's one thing.
Now the world is outraged that the food supplies are not reaching these children, and there are pictures of starving children. The fact of the matter is that Israel is sending Gaza all the food it needs, but the PLO, the Arabs, the Palestinians are stealing it and hiding it so that they can produce images of starvation
Well, hold on.
to circulate throughout the world.
So, kill my own people so that we could show that Israel is not good to us.
Right.
That's amazing.
Kill my own people and now starve my own people.
So it looks better
So
for
that we have
us.
posters that we can put up around the world.
Unbelievable.
And because of that, Britain and France are both considering recognizing the Palestinians, giving them a seat in the United Nations, basically to reward them for this tactic. It's unbelievable what's going on.
So we have, let's go to Larry in Brooklyn about, go on, the immigration in Brooklyn.
Hi, Larry. Let's go to Steve. Hi, Steve.
Hi, good morning. I know you're pushed for time, and I'll be brief. I'm a retired litigation consultant, and I like your program. You guys are terrific together, but I had to react to Doug's comment about the McDonald's hot coffee case as being a frivolous case. I've had my finger on the pulse of that for a long time. As my
Did you have finger in the hot coffee?
No, that it's on the little cardboard wrapper that they put around it.
Yeah.
But I have had my own experience with McDonald's coffee because sometimes they don't.
What did the lady get? Like $1 million or $20 million? He's got some ridiculous.
Doug, get that out of your mind because she and while you guys were interviewing other people, I went on to some other things on my screen, so I was going to quote some figures to you. She wanted to settle for something in like the $160,000, $200,000 category. The case went to trial. The jury awarded, I think, about $200,000 in compensatory damages to compensate her for her injuries. And then the court added punitive damages, which are common in commercial cases, up to, I forget, the number was maybe 300 or 400 I think $2 million, which is a multiple of the compensatory damages.
But
and
Steve, the whole point
jury,
is that these litigations are really screwing capitalism in the U.S.
Right.
Because everybody is working with their eye over their shoulder,
right,
to try to be sure that they're not going to be sued. And when you start getting verdicts for frivolous stuff like this, of millions of dollars, disguised as punitive or disguised as compensatory.
They should have gave her an extra cup of coffee at the end of the day.
Let's go to Jay in New Jersey.
Hey, Jay.
Hi, Jay.
And thank you, Richie. Hello, Jay.
So let's go to Wendy on Long Island.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi. Love spending Sunday afternoon with you guys.
Good.
So the question I have is, how come President Trump held back, the money for education, and why are they not appointing why is Congress not appointing his people?
Well, the money for education, there are two kinds of grants, for higher education and for basic lower education, elementary and secondary schools. And the money for higher education is being withheld by Trump to penalize these universities for their anti-Semitic practices and for their rewarding of anti-Semites with rules on campus that essentially give them free rein to be as offensive as they want to be. And the universities are caving one by one and agreeing to restrictions on campus demonstrations and ultimately restrictions on Palestinian students coming into the United States, which Rubio is imposing. And that's very constructive. The education grants are different. The administration has passed a law, the Big Beautiful Bill, that says that a portion of the federal education spending has to be reserved for charter schools, and a taxpayer can make an individual decision to withhold some of that money and instead invest it in a fund, a investment fund, to go for scholarships for non-public schools. And the bill says that states can decide whether they're going to participate in this program or not. If they say not, they lose the federal money. If they say yes, they become part of the program, and the citizens can take the federal money in piecemeal grants and give it to higher education scholarship funds that they have. So that's really what's going on. Thank you. Let's go to Corey on Long Island.
Hey, Corey. Corey.
Okay, well, let me...
Okay, we have Jay.
Let me move on. The Jay... oh, yes, okay, good.
Mondami.
Hi,
hey,
Jay.
How you doing?
Yeah. Hey, Dick. Yeah, how are you? No, I just about Mamdani, I just think it's fascinating how a politician can come, immigrate to our country, declare his hatred for the country, declare his hatred for Jews, cops, and everything else, and then ask to be elected to the most important mayor's race in the country. And, most politicians on the Democrat side, I believe, do hate the country, but they're smart enough not to say that. So, they're hiding behind fake patriotism. But however, this guy just says it outright. And, it makes one wonder if somebody hates the country and he's running for the New York City's mayor's election. The question is why he would do that. Yeah. The only answer that someone can come up with is that he wants to destroy the country and he wants to destroy the city. There's no other possible rationale for somebody who hates the city to run for that.
Question is he going to win or not? And the conventional wisdom has been that by splitting the anti-democratic vote, the anti-Mondavi, the Democratic vote, that Mondami is going to win because Cuomo and Adams and Sliwa are dividing the opposition vote. And there's a new poll out that shows that even in head-to-head voting with no splitting of the electorate, Mondami still wins. I don't believe Mondami is going to win.
Nope.
I believe that as people get closer to the election and learn more about Mondami's anti-American positions, just as you've explained, I think that he's going to increasingly lose support, and I don't think he's going to win. I think that the other problem is that Cuomo is a bad candidate, and it's not that Mondami was good, it was that his opponents were both weak and bad, and voters were not about to reward Cuomo for the work that he did during the pandemic, which involved lying to the New Yorkers about the pandemic and putting people who were in hospitals with COVID and putting them into nursing homes where they would give other people the disease. And as a result, 6,000 people were killed because they went from from hospitals to nursing homes.
When they could have went to the ship, the Freedom Ship, whatever they called it, the health ship, and they could have definitely, they went to the Jacob Javits Center. And the other thing is, I think with Mondomi, people voting for this guy, I think there's like-minded people in Manhattan and Brooklyn that will vote for him because they hate him.
But there are not enough of those.
Not enough of them, but there's enough that put him where he is right now.
Now, getting back to Donald Trump, he floated this week the idea of eliminating capital gains tax on home sales. Right now, the capital gains tax is levied on commercial transactions and also on home sales. When I worked for Clinton, I worked on lowering the rates for sales to homeowners of homes and setting a cap and saying that if you sold a home for less than $250,000, you would not have to pay capital gains. Now Trump wants to go further and basically eliminate the capital gains tax in the event of in the event of sale of private homes. Profits from the sale of homes, like other assets, are now subject to capital gains taxes, although there are large deductions for the sale of primary residences. That's what I talked about, that I got included in the Clinton tax cut when I was there. Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene interpreted Trump's comments as a show of support for a bill she's proposing called the No Tax on Home Sales Act, which would eliminate federal capital gains tax on the sale of primary residence. You worked for it, you should keep it. Let's get this bill passed.
Yeah.
Congress recently passed legislation that made permanent broad tax cuts passed in 2017. The bill also fulfilled Trump's new campaign promises for tax breaks on tips, seniors, and auto loans. Trump's political opponents say that the measures will mainly help the rich and add trillions of dollars to the national debt, only partially offset by deep cuts to health care and other benefits for the poor. But that isn't true. The benefits are not getting cut. The benefits are mainly for illegal immigrants, whether poor or not. And what Taylor Greene and Trump are going to be proposing is eliminating sales taxes on homes. What's been happening is that people are not willing to sell their homes because of the huge capital gains associated with the sale.
Right.
And the cap of saying it has to be of less than $250,000 has not been adjusted for inflation in 30 years. So it used to be that you had to pay capital gains if your sale was above $250,000. That was in effect $80,000. Now it's tripled because the cost of living has increased. So what Trump is trying to do is to literally eliminate the capital gains tax on homes. Keep it for commercial transactions, keep it for real estate, keep it for businesses, but eliminate it for homes.
You got to get Congress to stay on board. We got Corey from Long Island. Hey, Corey, how you doing?
Hi, Corey.
Dick and Doug, how you doing? I got cut off before. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem.
I was just thinking, last week there was some legislation being proposed regarding the Congress not being allowed to invest in the stock market.
Yeah.
I know this is not a real
No, I have a
issue,
story
but
coming up on that in a minute.
Yeah, that's why we got you. Go,
thank
Corey.
you. Yeah, no, I just thought this is like a simple suggestion or solution. Why don't you just, while they serve, the senators or congressmen, if you just can't invest in individual companies or stocks or option trading, you can invest in index funds, mutual funds. I'm invested in I'm a civil servant in Suffolk County. I'm in a 357 plan where I can invest my money, but I'm limited to just mutual funds. And it served me very well, you know.
That's
I'm actually
very,
glad
very
that
good
it allowed
idea.
me.
The problem is that we're dealing here with fundamental corruption by legislators, by congressmen, following in the footsteps of Nancy Pelosi, who, even though she was Speaker, profited hugely from stock sales and investment money in the stock market. And if they invest in mutual funds, they're not going to get that windfall. And your proposal is a very good one.
Very good.
But it assumes good faith on the part of the congressman.
But, you know, Dick, it wasn't Nancy. It was her husband.
Yeah,
she
right.
had nothing to do with it.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Anyway,
So-
we got to take a break. And what are we going to come back with?
We're going to talk about, we talked about how CBS is now joining the mainstream and getting away from liberal radical policies. And there's a story here that NBC may have to follow suit.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Make sure, because if they're knocking on the door while we're on. Thank you, buddy. So 12, you, and that's it?
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. There is a new push being launched by Congress with basically support by Trump to ban congressmen from stock trading, the issue that I think was Corey just raised in the call.
Yeah, that's perfect.
The year-long effort to ban members of Congress from trading stocks is back in the spotlight, following a House Ethics Committee report that took issue with transactions made by a member's spouse after a Senate panel advanced legislation to prohibit lawmakers from making transactions. And some lawmakers are vowing to keep the topic front and center as they look to make headways on this issue. Leading that effort is Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, Republican from Florida, who plans to file a discharge petition forcing the committee to report out the bill and put it up for a vote, banning lawmakers and their immediate families from owning, trading, or controlling stocks, commodities, or other futures. If the procedural gamut, the discharge petition, is successful, the legislation would hit the floor in the fall. But if passed as prologue, getting the measure over the finish line will be a tall task. The congressman is pushing it, Tim Burchett, a Republican of Tennessee, said, "I think America is aware of what's going on. They know it's not natural for somebody to day in, day out, pick stocks and have a 100 or 200 or 300% return. And they're tired of seeing members of Congress who are allegedly making only $170,000 a year to retire worth millions and millions." While they're banning members from trading stocks is widely popular among the public, some lawmakers for years have balked at the push, raising concerns about the level of pay for members of Congress, $174,000, but it's been frozen since '29. And then it's complicated by the idea that Trump himself has made a lot of money from trading in stocks, basically in companies that he owns. Now, the new legislation has a carve-out for Trump, since the requirement would not apply until after the start of elected officials' next terms. Hearings over the bill became contentious, with some Republicans on the panel arguing against the ban altogether, and Democrats arguing in support, and Rand Paul, senator from Kentucky, asking why Trump should be exempt. Trump, who earlier in the day said that he likes the stock trading ban conceptually, attacked Senator Josh Hawley, Republican of Missouri, for his support of the bill. Hawley later said that Trump was under the mistaken impression that it would apply to him. This is all important because former Speaker House Nancy Pelosi, who was leader of the House, opposed the stock trading ban.
Of course. I wonder why.
And after whom Republicans cheekily named a previous effort to ban trading, threw her support behind the bill as well. But because her husband made tens of millions of dollars for her on stock trades, very closely correlated with government actions. In fact, when the government announced it was suing Visa, the Visa stock tripled in value.
And the day before, he bought a ton of it.
Right, and Nancy's husband made millions.
But they didn't know anything about that.
Right.
No.
So it's really important that this bill pass. Now, why is Trump exempt from it? Well, Trump is in a totally different category. First of all, the stocks that he's profiting from are largely his own companies, and he's profiting because of his management of those companies and his insight in starting them. And it's very different from Pelosi, who is basically taking a free ride based on government regulations that were coming into effect.
Yeah, so let's go to, do we have anyone new on this thing? Oh, yeah, we got Richie in the Bronx. First of all, let's just put the call-in number, anyone interested in talking to us. 800-848-9222. That's 800-848-9222. Call. Okay, so Richie from the Bronx, what do you got? Something about this Russia and Hillary thing.
Okay, good afternoon, guys.
Hey, Rich.
Even if you believe that Russia wanted to influence the 2016 presidential election, it's ludicrous to think that they would favor Donald Trump.
Right.
Because Russia already knew that Hillary could be bought because of the uranium affair.
Right.
Yep, absolutely. What that is that...
Uranium One.
Yeah, Uranium One, which was a uranium company based in Canada, wanted to buy up the a third of the uranium deposits in the United States. And there's a commission, a federal commission, that rules on this and decides whether the investment or the sale is in the national interest. And it's chaired by the Secretary of State, who at the time was Hillary Clinton. And Hillary approved the sale, said this was in the interest of the United States. And then her husband made over $1 million in speeches to the same company and to the same interests that his wife had supported.
Oh, but one had nothing to do with the other, Dick.
That's right. You know, there's another interesting story I just want to share. We've been focusing on federal taxes, but part of the scrutiny needs to go to state income taxes. And there was a study published this week that said that when you compare states that have income taxes with states that do not have income taxes, the states that do not have income taxes are gaining $200 million a year in personal income. The state gets a portion of that in taxes. But the point is that richer people who make more money are moving to those states and moving out of states with high personal income taxes. So that's why Florida and Texas have gained so significantly, and states like New York and California and Connecticut and New Jersey are slipping financially. Not just the revenue to the state, but the personal income of the taxpayers has changed dramatically. And that lends new importance to electing Citarelli, governor of New Jersey.
Right.
Because a lot of New Jersey's economic problems are due to the out-migration of people. And essentially what you're talking about here is a state government that's bankrupting its own people with taxation and forcing its own people to leave. And the important statistic here is how much in personal income is the state losing because it taxes that personal income.
Hey, Dick, wasn't there like a tea party a long time ago somewhere upstate to stop this tax thing?
Massachusetts.
By the way, speaking of taxes, we got Dino from Queens talking about taxes. Hey, Dino, how are you?
Hey, Dick. Hey, Doug. How are you guys?
Good.
The dynamic duos. My question is this. I'm a little worried, but a lot worried. I was birthed in my house in Elmhurst. My dad's United States Army veteran. My mom just died at 96, thank you. My mom just died last year of 96 years old, and she was paying under $5,000 taxes. And now I got hit with $11,000. I don't know if I can do it, guys. I'm so worried.
Did you say you were injured in the fire?
No.
No.
Okay.
No. So my mom passed away, and her taxes were under $5,000, about $4,500. I just got the bill for $11,000.
Wow.
Yeah, is that big beautiful bill going to help an individual? I was literally birthed in the house. I'm 65, and
wow.
I still live there from birth. My dad bought that house out of the World War II when he was in the United States Army.
I'm not sure if that bill.
Well, that bill won't, but Trump's new proposal would.
Right.
Trump's new proposal, which he hasn't formally made yet, but he will soon. He floated the idea. Would exempt a personal home like yours from paying the capital gains tax. And while he could not stop the state where you live from increasing your assessment and increasing your tax bill, which may be what you're talking about, he can end the capital gains tax on homes, which will lower the cost and hopefully enable you to stay there. Thank you for your service. And
thank you, Dino.
God, I wish you luck.
And I love that Ferrari, a Dino Ferrari. It's actually not a Ferrari. It's a Fiat, but it's Dino. Right, Dino?
Go ahead, Doug.
No, actually, let's go to Margaret because she's talking about the capital gains also. Hi,
Okay.
Margaret.
Hi,
Long
Margaret.
Island.
Yes, hello, Dick and Doug. Very quick. You know, I know Marjorie Taylor Greene is proposing something, but yes, I agree with increasing the amount of the capital gains, let's say for a single person from $250 to whatever, because
The
of
exemption.
inflation.
Yeah.
Right, but nobody's talking about this. I think what the president wants to do is stimulate the housing market.
Yep.
So it would make sense to me, a short-term capital gain is under a year. Why is he making people that may have two residencies wait 2 years before they can take the exemption? Make it 1 year. Things will be moving along much more quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
That's a good
You
thought.
see what I'm saying?
That's
Yes,
a good thought.
absolutely.
The focus now is on trying to index the ceiling for inflation so it increases. But your point is a very good one, to treat second homes differently from first homes. Thanks for bringing that to our
Thank you,
attention.
Margaret. All right, we're going to talk about the FCC, Dick.
Yeah, let's. The context of this is that the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, is launching a major offensive against the establishment network media that is so biased and so controlled by the left. And their most immediate action was to permit the takeover of CBS by Paramount, that basically is removing the leftists who run the CBS network and control its programming and transfer it to a company, Paramount, that has shown itself not to be politically dominated and not to be left-wing.
So
the
FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, launched a formal inquiry into Comcast and NBC Universal, citing rising concerns about networks' treatment of local broadcast affiliates and potential violation of federal regulations. The move marks a significant step towards reasserting federal oversight in broadcasting landscape increasingly dominated by national conglomerates. In a letter sent to Comcast CEO Brian Roberts, Carr noted that he directed the FCC's Media Bureau to examine the network's affiliate agreements and determine whether Comcast's practices undermine the independence and public service obligations of the local stations. Carr's decision follows complaints from multiple local broadcast station groups that have alleged that major networks, including NBC and other top broadcasters, are using coercive tactics in negotiations for renewal of their affiliation agreements. These include threats to terminate long-standing affiliations unless stations accept stringent financial and operational terms, as well as restrictions on digital carriers and local content decisions. A tipping point for localism. For years, the FCC has stepped away from enforcing critical regulations designed to protect localism, Carr wrote. This retreat has encountered large national programs like Comcast to exert more control over licensed local broadcast stations, eroding the ability of local media to serve their communities. Carr's comments underscore growing tensions between national content producers and local broadcasters, an imbalance that industry watchdogs say threatens the fundamental purpose of local TV to reflect and inform the communities they serve. The FCC chairman's inquiry seeks to determine whether Comcast practices violate commission rules regarding affiliate independence. These rules prohibit network contracts that interfere with stations' right to reject unsuitable programming or prevent stations from making independent scheduling decisions based on the local needs. Carr also referred NBC's universal streaming service, Peacock, and the company's broader media ecosystem, including cable, streaming, and owned and operated stations, as contributing factors that raise potential conflicts with local affiliates and public interest obligations.
Now, what Doug was just talking about, I think, is a ruse and a trick by Trump to try to exert control over NBC and the other networks. The FCC has jurisdiction over the relationship between a national network and the local affiliate. And the goal of this is to permit local affiliates to continue to offer news, to be independent, and to provide a counterweight in the national media. And I think that Carr, the commissioner of the FCC, appointed by Trump, is using that as a way of exerting control over NBC. I think that their argument that this is about local control and about helping local stations hold out against the national networks on programming and other decisions, I think that is all basically phony. I think that fundamentally this is an effort by Trump to end the domination of the mainstream media by the left.
He's doing what he does best, right?
Yeah.
Tells them, listen, here's what I'm going to do unless you do this. And then they either listen or he does it.
Yep.
Why don't we go to break, because it's just about there, and we come back with a couple of good stories.
Okay.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hi, welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. As you know, there was a major decision by Governor Abbott of Texas calling for a reapportionment of Texas congressional districts, even though the 10-year census had not finished. And he called for a recount and a redrawing of district lines.
So redistricting.
Yeah, to do that. And it basically reflects a big growth in the number of Republicans living in the state and the flipping of the Hispanic vote from Democrat to Republican.
Well, before you go too far with this, let's get Eduardo from Tampa. He wants to ask us about that, because you'll probably answer his question before he asks
Okay.
it. Hey, Eduardo, how you doing?
Hey, Dan, Doug, and Mr. Morris. Yeah, and, I really hope they get this because, I listened to the other side, and they're talking about expanding the courts. Remember that little talking point on the other side? It's pretty ridiculous. I mean, I'm from Illinois, Chicago. I mean, in California, believe me, they're doing the same thing that Texas is doing. So it's a pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, but they screw around every 10 years. And what Trump and the Republicans are doing is doing it in 5 years. And given the massive growth in population in Texas and in Florida, and the shrinkage of population in California and New York, it makes sense to get this in now and not to have 5 years of people representing constituents who've left the state and no longer exist. It makes sense.
I got a question for you before I drop off. The next bill, maybe when they come back from recess, I'd like to see us beat the other side as far as some kind of work visa program. What do you think about something like that?
I didn't understand the question.
Yeah. Give us the question again.
Well, it kind of like some kind of worker program for undocumented or illegals, in other words.
I think that there is a need for that. Before Trump really started to deport people and really started to close the border, this argument was seen as phony, and the idea of guest workers, which Eisenhower initiated, where people would be allowed to come into the United States, help harvest the crop, and then leave once it was done.
Yeah, but that's through the front door.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
And the idea was to set up. The idea is to set up a program to allow that, and I think that makes sense. I think there are some businesses that require large numbers of laborers, and only on a seasonal basis. But the key thing is there has to be a credible way to get them out of the country after you brought them in for a short time. And until now, there was not a basis for doing that, and now it's become really possible.
Thank you, Eduardo.
Thank you. But going back to this redistricting thing, the media is playing this as if it's a Republican power grab, and the only important thing here is that it adds 5 seats to the Republican Party in Texas. And that's true, but think about what's going on. You've had millions and millions of people leaving some states and entering other states, and yet the number of congressmen awarded to those states doesn't change until every 10 years. And normally that's okay. Normally the one decade isn't that different from the other. But now we're talking about...
Because we don't have that influx of people, so many.
Now we're talking about major changes in the distribution of population. And it becomes very evident that the congressmen in many of these states are representing people who no longer live there, who've moved out. And to keep them on the books and to keep those seats allocated is, I think, a fundamental mistake and an injustice. So what Abbott and Trump are trying to do is to make that process of reapportionment and redistricting not something we wait 10 years for, but something we can do in the midterms.
But what about the other states? You know, now he's going with Texas. What about if they go to, you know, they're going to want to do this in New York and...
No, but it's the opposite in the other states. They're losing population, and yet they're keeping the congressional seats. So that you have congressmen in New York who are representing districts that are increasingly ghost districts because nobody lives there. They've moved out. Now, fortunately, this phenomenon of big changes in the midterm is limited to a very few states. Texas, Florida, Nevada, and a few other states are gaining population, and New York, California, New Jersey, and Connecticut are losing population. But it makes sense to adjust these congressional seats now, not at the end of a 10-year period, because it's the midway, and you're looking at congressmen representing districts that are way underpopulated and other states having districts that are way overpopulated, and you're not getting adequate congressional representation.
And the left just talked about they want to do it.
Well, the left wants to use the excuse of reapportionment to do it for their states, but it masks the fundamental purpose, which is that the goal here is not reapportionment. The goal here is to correctly apportion congressional seats based on population. And the population of these liberal states is voting with their feet to leave these states. So New York should not get the congressman that it has, nor should Illinois, nor should any of these Democratic states. And those seats need to be transferred to states that are growing in population. Now, the Constitution says that you can't change the number of seats allocated to each state until every 10 years when the census comes in. It prohibits you from doing that after only 5 years. But what Trump's and the Republicans are now saying is, okay, it's not legal under the Constitution to take a seat from New York and give it to Texas until the 10 years. But it is legal to reapportion the seats within Texas so that the places that are gaining in population can get a larger percentage of those seats. And then when this 10-year census comes, we can actually move those seats out of those underpopulated states. And that's very wise, that's very just. But the media is not covering it. They're just covering it as a method of increasing the number of Republicans in Congress.
You're increasing more seats in Congress. You're not moving from one state to another.
No, you can increase the number of seats.
You can or you can't?
Cannot. But what you can do is you can shift them within the state.
Within the state.
From the areas that have not had population growth to the areas that have. There are areas that have had very little population growth in Texas and in Florida, but they're not getting extra congressmen as a result. And what's needed now is a reapportionment to draw the lines based on what the current population is in those states and where that population is concentrated, so that you don't have ghost constituencies like we're facing now.
Right. How many are in Congress? 400?
435.
35.
And this could be, it's hard to see how many are going to switch, but it's very possible. Let's go to George in Rockland.
Hey, George.
Hi, George.
Guys. Hi, thanks for taking my call. So I'd like to bring something to your attention here. Maybe it's even a scoop for you. I don't know. I just didn't hear it anywhere else. So the other day I saw a picture about some of the hostages that Hamas holds in Gaza here.
Yes.
And it's horrible. Okay, those people look like skeletons. You know, like the people who came from the Nazi concentration
Netanyahu said he was shocked by that.
You know, it is just unbelievable. So in the meantime, there is a cry about the people in Gaza that are starving, which is bogus too, okay? There's a tremendous amount of food is being shipped there daily by trucks. Now they're dropping it from planes and stuff like this. They say it's equivalent to about 8 meals a day per person, okay? Now, none of this food is getting into the hostages.
Right.
They're being starved intentionally by Hamas there, okay?
Yep,
that's just evil.
No, but that's absolutely true. And
I don't
thank you for
understand
calling
why.
and pointing that out.
That's just evil.
Yeah, I think you're so right, George, and thank you for calling.
Thank you, George.
Let's go to Joseph in Connecticut.
Hey, Joe.
Hello, Dick and Dog. You should have the acronym DAD. DND.
That's pretty good.
Okay. No, I'd like to talk about two health issues. First of all, the fires in Canada are polluting. I even see it here because I'm on a little hill watching over the sound. And it's causing a health problem in the Midwest, upper states, Michigan, Illinois.
And that's based on
15 million acres
wildfires.
are burning. Yeah, the wildfires, that happened in the past. They've been burning for the last week or two. They're burning now. And I don't believe it could be just by natural causes. But anyway, I'd like to also talk about the fact that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. through the FDA took removal of mercury, which is ethyl mercury, from the vaccines. And I think that's a very good move because there's been connections with autism and other things with that. So there's two.
Bear in mind that what Kennedy is saying is, let's have impartial chemists come in and evaluate what those vaccines now are doing, and whether there's too much mercury or whether there are other contaminants there, and that ought to that process needs to proceed. He's saying that the current regulatory process is so biased in favor of the vaccine producers that you'll never know if they're safe or not, and that you need a review of this to understand it.
A more of an independent review.
Let me just comment on the wildfire issue. The reason we have these wildfires is because the government will not permit them to harvest the timber. They will not permit people to cut down dead trees.
Right.
They claim that this violates the environment.
So nature takes its course.
And as a result, the people who live in California and apparently near Canada as well have pollution in their lungs because the government won't permit dead trees to be cut down. And that's a key factor where the environmentalists are really promoting a very bad environment.
And that's where God takes over. Anyway, the call-in number is 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. When we come back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hi, welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Joe from Brooklyn has a really interesting comment. I was talking about the importance of limiting stock trading by members of Congress and their families. And he says that it's very possible that they'll simply pass more of their trading onto more distant family members and still make money. Tell us about your concerns, Joe.
Hello, Dick?
Yes.
Okay, hey, Dick, hey, Doug. Yeah, this has been going on forever. JFK, Joe Kennedy, the father, made a lot of money in inside trading. Now, what good is a bill to pass along if, let's say, my friend Gerald, Doug, my friend Gerald is a congressman and he calls me and I buy the stock he buys the stock through me and we split it.
Yeah. Well, that's illegal. That would be a violation of the SEC rules. I think and you'd have endless investigations. I think the more sensible proposal is the one, I'm not sure of his name, I forget who made it earlier in the show, and where he said that you should prohibit investment in mutual funds, not in individual stocks.
Yes, that was good.
So that if you're betting that the economy will do better or do worse, you can buy or you can sell without you benefiting directly from it. And I think that that's a very important comment. I think particularly in view of the capacity of the legislators for chicanery and for deceit, the odds are that if you broaden it to their third cousin 14 times removed, they'll have kickbacks and they'll have stock insider profits.
My cousin's friend's aunt's uncle.
Yeah. Bear in mind that Nancy Pelosi's money didn't come from her insider trading. It came from her husband's insider trading.
He just happened to, get a feel for what his wife was doing.
Let's go to...
Oh, hold on. You know who I like? This guy Joe in New Jersey. Trump should let the people decide who gets locked up. Okay. Let's talk to Joe.
Hey, Joe.
I like this, Joe.
Hey, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dick and Doug, awesome show. You guys are awesome, really good.
Thank you.
Listen, I have this thing that's just bothering. I'm sure I'm not the only one in this country, but no one's getting locked up at all. It's straight out criminal
They will,
activity.
Joe. They will very soon.
Somebody here's my suggestion and an idea or a thought, and see what you guys think of it. I'm relating it to in the biblical with Barabbas, when they brought Christ to Barabbas to Pontius Pilate, right? And they let Pilate knew that Christ was innocent, but he let the people decide.
Right.
So I feel that the reason why our government is not, it's hard for them to take actions to start locking these people up because they're scared, they're concerned they may get hit. So make their hands clean. How about creating a voting system or some kind of a something like that where let the people decide?
I like the idea. It's just never going to happen.
I think the better idea is to regulate state and local sentencing. Trump is able to make these huge changes.
What do you mean regulate state and local? What do you mean?
Trump is able to make these huge changes at the national level. But because law enforcement is a state matter, he can't interfere when California lets people out of jail or New York says if you rape somebody or murder somebody, too bad, you get out of prison awaiting trial and you can go out and get more victims. Those policies are clearly wrong, and Trump is completely right for opposing them. But he doesn't have the power to do it because those are state and local decisions. Now, what Trump is increasingly doing to deal with this, I think it'll be a big action on his part, is that he has told these states, I will cut my aid to you if you don't toughen up your criminal justice stuff. Particularly Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, has been condemned for failing to be aggressive in cracking down on crime at airports and in federal transportation facilities, and the federal regulators under Sean Duffy, who is the cabinet secretary, have threatened to cut off that money, and the threat is a very important one, and the courts have ruled that Trump can do that. And I think what you're going to see now is a law and order anti-crime program filtering down to the state and local level because of funding cuts that Trump is likely to impose. I think you're seeing that, and I think that's going to be a very, very positive solution. Good. So let's go to...
I think we got everyone.
Yeah, we got everyone. So... Okay, who do we have? Okay, let's go to Sonny. Hi, Sonny.
Sonny, how you
Hi,
doing?
Dick and Doug. Hi, very good. Hi, you guys. Yeah, great show as usual. I have a suggestion, former immigration officer, and with all the overstays that we've seen, and there's quite a lot of them, we never really get an accurate number, but why don't they just impose, maybe through Congress, a bond? Maybe, they could come up with, I'm just throwing this out, a number like 20, 25,000. You want to come to the United States? Fine. But you hold that in abeyance, and when you don't come back, 20 days, whatever the visa is allowed, and you turn to if you don't return to your origin country, we hold on, we keep your money. And when we find you, we use that money for your ticket back, and we keep the other part of it to increase, the budget of America. It's a win-win-win situation. And not only that, we had this done many years ago. I would say 40 years ago, 50 years ago, this was the law, but it just vanished.
That's an excellent idea, Sonny. And I think the key point that lies behind the idea is that while Trump has been very effective in stopping people from coming over the border illegally and deporting those that have, he has not done nearly the same job of people who come here legally on visas and then overstay the visas and just hang out in the country while they're illegal. They become illegal. And there's been very little effort to track those folks down and throw them out of the country.
And look at the people like Luis Rosales, right? What he has to go through right now with his immigration status and whatnot.
Right.
He has to go back. He's got to come back 3 weeks. And these illegals stay in forever. So this is the right thing that Trump's doing.
Yeah.
And Ali from Argentina, our
Right.
other friend, the same problem.
Right.
He's got businesses in New York and Florida, and he has a problem coming back and forth also.
But the idea of making people leave when their visas expire, and even Sonny's idea of making them post a bond, makes a lot of sense and is worth exploring. We have time for one more. Let's go to
John in the Catskills.
John in Catskills. Yeah, John.
Yeah,
John?
how you guys doing? Yeah,
Good,
how you
we're
guys
great.
doing today? This
We
is
have
my
2
first
minutes.
ever
What's
call
up?
to a radio station.
Good.
And I'm a former hippie, cut my hair, and heading back to Woodstock, and I dare not tell anybody I'm a conservative.
Whisper it.
Nah, just
Here's my question.
just don't even say it.
Did you come up there because of Woodstock?
My wife.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
well,
beautiful
that's good.
area up there. It's actually
Yeah,
Bethel.
yeah.
It's actually Bethel Woods, right?
But I don't get the correlation of something here. The economy increased 3% last quarter. Am I correct?
Yeah,
I keep
right.
hearing that, right? Now, how do the job numbers go down?
Well,
That doesn't make no sense
they
to me.
do not go down. I talked about that earlier in my show. The jobs numbers lump in people who are here legally and people who are here illegally. And over the last 3 years, the number of jobs for people who should be here, or Americans born here or legally here, has increased by 2 million. And the number of jobs for people who are here illegally has dropped by 500,000. So what you're really looking at is a shift in employment from people who should be here to people who are not here. and the jobs data does not make that distinction. But when you dig down, you see it, and it's very dramatic. Thanks very much for your call, and I wish you good luck on staying in the Catskills.
Well, Dick Morris, it's been an honor here to be on the show with Dick Morris, saving the world one Dick Morris at a time.
Okay, Doug, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Thanks for listening to The Dick Morris Show. You can hear The Dick Morris Show Sundays at noon. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?